NFL Draft Eve, baby. Yeah, what's up? Welcome to the show, Wednesday, April 23rd. Quick programming reminder for you. We will not have a typical Thursday morning show. We'll have a Friday morning show to an extent because we're going to be on at like midnight. Midnight, right after the draft ends. You're going to hear the reaction from us on Thursday night, on Friday night, and then on Saturday. So every time a day of the NFL Draft wraps up, we will be here to tell you the winners and losers and all the fantasy reaction. We haven't had a trade of a first-round pick yet. It is pretty wild. Usually there's something that happens before this. Give me a team you think that's going to make a trade in the NFL Draft for a first-round pick. It's going to involve a first-round pick, a big trade, and I'm not even going to call on anybody. You guys just call it out. Go. Give me a team that's going to make a trade.
Giants.
Tampa moves down.
I heard Giants. I heard Tampa. Heath, what'd you say?
I said Giants.
What do you think the Giants are going to do?
Meyers is going to get pissed that they take Carter at 3, and then he's going to call down and say, go get quarterback X who's still available, which is probably going to be Sanders. So you're going to make some dumb trade, maybe with Tampa, and get back in the first round and draft Sanders.
Heath, what do you think the Giants are going to do?
I thought they were going to trade back into round 1 to draft a quarterback. Yeah, same thing.
Right.
Okay. It seems like it wouldn't be a huge surprise if Sanders is not the second quarterback off the board. Some Tyler Shuck buzz right now. Yeah.
Round 1.
Yeah, it probably should only be one quarterback. It's not a great draft, right? I mean, it's not. There are not 32 first-round caliber players in this draft, right?
Nope.
There will be by the time we evaluate this, 3 years from now. But I think going into it, I mean, look, last year you had the excitement of the 6 quarterbacks, right? So this year it's not a quarterback-friendly draft, especially with the drama taking out of it that Cam Ward's going to go 1. So where does Sanders fall? Really, the draft, I think, should start at 4, with New England. The first 3 picks should be locked in, barring trade. So you look at Hunter and Carter, like those guys should be no-brainers after Ward goes at 1. And really what the Patriots are going to do at 4, to me, is where it all starts to get interesting.
And I think it could be a great draft for our purposes. I mean,
yes,
the running backs, the tight ends, there's some really exciting wide receivers. It's sounding more and more like Travis Hunter is going to be a wide receiver. I'm really, really, really getting amped up for these rookie picks.
Yeah, baby. All right. I love that spin. All right, give me one draft pick or trade you'd like to see. That's what we're going to talk about today. I do have a lot of news and notes, including an update on Christian McCaffrey, on J.J. McCarthy, on C.J. Stroud. So we'll get to that in a minute. But today's topic is Dream Draft Day Fits. Dream Draft Day Fits. I could have said that better. The best landing spots for both prospects, and maybe we'll talk about some veterans that could get moved as well. Jamie, give me one draft pick or trade that you'd like to see.
One draft pick or trade? I'd like to see the Bears move up and get Ashton Jeanty.
Is that your favorite spot for Jeanty?
I like it better than Jacksonville, which is what you're hearing a lot of now. Him to, the Jags at 5. I mean, ideally, yeah, I think it is. Just knowing that what the Bears have done with this offensive line, history of Bears running backs, when they're great, they're great. Yeah, that's my favorite spot for him.
Anybody? I think I'd go with Raiders, I'd do Cowboys. We won't get there.
Broncos.
You
can take everything that Jamie said about the Bears and add Sean Payton and his track record with running backs. I'd rather him go there. Bears are a close second.
I only fear the situation being like he shares in Denver with somebody stupidly. Like, we like Estime on short yardage. Or, Jaleel McLaughlin's still going to be, in the passing downs role. Or, you know what? Hey, Tyler Batty, whatever his name is.
Bidet.
Blake Watson. Somebody stupid has some too many touches there because Sean Payton is Sean Payton.
I just love that I yelled out Bidet.
Yeah.
I think Sean Payton, if he's making a big trade up to get Ashton Jeanty, he's going to give Ashton Jeanty like 80% of the workload. And
I would hope. See, I think, and look, Ben Johnson obviously is coming from a situation where he shared, had 2 guys share the ball, but to me, that situation is the best.
That's just I can't even imagine what Denver would have to give up to get up to, are we saying they're going to trade to 10? Because if they're trading up to top 6 from 20,
he's not.
Jeanty's
not making it to 10. Jeanty's not making it to 10.
Yeah,
I don't think he is either.
All right. So, but obviously Denver could pick a running back in any.
That was my favorite. That was my hope is, and I think we maybe all had somebody different for running back spot. But I'd love to see TreVeyon Henderson there if they can.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeanty goes top 10 and Hampton goes before he gets to them. I think Henderson, he's going to have to share there, but he could fit into that third down pass catching role and also have some explosive playmaking ability as a rusher. If he has maybe, 10 rush attempts per game and catches 75 passes. And so Henderson to the Broncos. And that's going to make a big difference in rookie drafts is how many of these running backs we get in round one. So I'm cheering for at least 3 of them.
I think that's what we'll get.
So Sean Payton has been a head coach for 17 seasons. What do you think the most amount of carries for a running back is? I'm going to give you a number. 250, over or under, most carries for one single running back under Sean Payton as a head coach, over or under 250?
I'll take the over, but it's not by a lot.
Agreed.
I feel like Mark Ingram might have had 250 plus one season.
So I'm going to tell you that I would have loved to have time to fact check this because I think the answer is under. I think it's 244. Yeah. Back in his first season, the only real workhorse was Kamara.
You decided to look this up, but you didn't check it.
I did this research 3 years ago, or whenever he got fired by the Broncos. So I just want to go back and make sure, and then I updated it with the last 2 years. But I don't think there's a single 250 carry running back in 17 seasons. I've got 5 instances of a running back getting 226 or more carries. However, we do have a 50 catch running back in 12 of 17 seasons, and it probably would have been 16 of 17 seasons if we didn't have injuries to guys like Reggie Bush. It was basically Reggie Bush every time getting hurt, Pierre Thomas getting hurt. So you're like, it's a lock for 50 catches. The last 2 years, Javonte Williams had 50 and 52 catches. So that just always happens. In fact, no. Sorry, Samaje Perine had 50 catches 2 years ago. Javonte had 52 last year. All right. So we've got Jeanty to the Bears, TreVeyon Henderson to the Broncos. Dave, did you give one?
Jeanty to the Broncos.
Oh, Jeanty to the Broncos. Okay. Give me one of your veterans getting traded things.
One of my veterans getting traded things. How about Kyle Pitts to the Seahawks? Gets a fresh start. Atlanta doesn't have to pay him or even entertain the idea of paying him. And he just goes to Seattle to play out the rest of his contract. And then he moves on after that.
Does he crack your top 12?
No.
Okay. All right. Listen, you want to win a spot in the podcast league? We've already got over 100 entries into this contest, and it should be a lot more because, like I said, it's important to practice patience here. See if there are some trades. Fill this out tomorrow if you want. But here's the URL. Go to tinyurl.com/FFT2025 draft. So here is our NFL draft contest where you're going to tell us the top 10 picks in order. Spell their names correctly. Don't have to worry about which team is selecting them. You just tell us who you think the top 10 picks are going to be in order. The form says who will be the first pick, who will be the second pick, and so on. And we'll take whoever has the most correct answers, in order, and they're in the podcast league. If there's a tie, there's a very funny tiebreaker in there. So please go to tinyurl.com/FFT2025 draft. And remember, full name and correct spelling is required for your entry to count. 1 entry per person, so don't fill it out too early here. But don't wait too long. Got to do it before the draft starts. Yes, sir.
I've got the running back that went over 250 carries with Sean Payton.
You got
Tiki Barber, 2002. Sean Payton was the offensive coordinator of the Giants.
I did not count that, but was I right that nobody else did? Or
I think you're right. Yeah, I think 240 is the high, and it was Kamara. Mark Ingram only had 230 as his high.
Okay, check 2006. Somebody had 244 carries. It might have been Reggie Bush.
I don't think it was. I'll check though.
Yeah, 2006, the Saints, his first year. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back with the answer to this riddle and some important news and notes after this.
Get ready.
Wait a second.
I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Overheard just before the break. Dave went, "Oh,
I got the answer.
what do you got?"
Deuce.
He had 244. Deuce McAllister.
244 in 15 games. So clearly he was pacing for over 250.
Great job by Thomas in the private jet.
What's he
Yeah,
got?
Schaefer knew it.
Schaefer knew it.
Oh yeah, very good, very good. And but in that same year, Reggie Bush had 88 catches. So
And 155 carries.
wow, yeah.
Maybe they just take TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and we got a couple of top 20 running backs.
But it's interesting. You think if the Broncos draft TreVeyon Henderson, you're ballparking about 10 carries per game?
That was a guess.
Okay. Do you think he's capable of more than that?
Yes. I'm not sure that Sean Payton is capable of having a primary pass catching back who also has a huge role as a rusher as a rookie.
Gotcha. All right, news and notes.
It's 10 carries a game, spending a first-round pick on.
It would be disappointing. Yeah.
What did Kamara average his rookie year?
That's exactly what I was just going to look at.
Pick, though?
And they had Mark Ingram. They had Adrian Peterson for 4 games, right?
He averaged 7.5 rush attempts per game. And I think, like, if you told Sean Payton with the 20th pick overall, you're going to get Alvin Kamara production, even though he wasn't a first-round pick, I think they'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
We'll take Alvin Kamara for the next 8 years.
I'm telling you, if TreVeyon Henderson goes to the Broncos, I'm pretty sure I'm taking him with the 3rd pick in our dynasty draft.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Over Hampton to the Raiders?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think I have the 5th pick in that draft.
Yeah, maybe I'll trade back.
Sounds like I'm taking a wide receiver.
All right, news and notes. Christian McCaffrey says he has 0 restrictions. McCaffrey first round?
He will be by the time we get to drafts. Yes.
McCaffrey.
I'm not going to rank him that way, but he will be drafted in the first
I
round.
like that. All right,
we're going to take Jeanty over McCaffrey, right?
Let's see where
depending on
Jeanty
the
goes.
let's revise the question. If Ashton Jeanty goes to the following teams, I would take him over Christian McCaffrey.
Denver,
Raiders.
Sure.
All right, so
A single-digit pick.
Dave, you go.
Denver, Chicago, Dallas, probably Las Vegas as well.
Anyone disagree with that or want to add to it?
Patriots or Giants if they surprise us.
What about the
Could you
Giants?
imagine if the Giants did this?
No.
It'd be fantastic. It'd be the greatest night. Like, I need a 50-point game from Cade Cunningham, and the Giants take Ashton Jeanty. And I'm not even on the Thursday night at midnight show, but I'll be up watching.
Pop on there.
Yes.
So I wouldn't even mind it. I mean, he's that good, but no, it's got to be Carter. I would mind it a little bit. But anyway, Jaguars. If he goes to the Jaguars, would you go Jeanty or McCaffrey?
Jeanty.
Probably Jeanty.
JJ McCarthy has no limitations. He missed 2024 with a torn meniscus, so that's good. CJ Stroud is going to have more pre-snap responsibilities. All right, let this man work.
It's good. Let's worsen your offensive line. You don't have one of your best receivers, but hey, do more.
He should, do more before the snap, right? The Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen, he was asked about his potential number 2 wide receiver. He mentioned Parker Washington and De'Ami Brown. Got to figure they're going to draft someone.
I think they're going to draft someone, but I hope, like, for people who are making roster cuts in deeper dynasty leagues or maybe even regular dynasty leagues, depending on what you think that is, like Parker Washington, someone who may be on your chopping block. And I'd like to wait until we get through Friday before I make that decision.
I would like the Jaguars to trade down and take Tyler Warren or Loveland, I guess.
The Jaguars would like to trade down and have the option to take Tyler Warren.
Yeah. Let's see. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, who reports that there's some buzz about maybe Jamison Williams getting traded. James Cook is not at the voluntary OTAs. George Kittle is not at voluntary OTAs. Kirk Cousins is at voluntary OTAs. Jalen Warren signed a 1-year, $5.3 million deal. The Steelers, more Steelers news. GM Omar Khan says he thinks DK Metcalf and George Pickens will be exciting for everyone to watch. So he's basically saying Pickens is going to be on the team. The Eagles gave their center Cam Jurgens a 4-year, $68 million extension. The Titans are going to stay at number 1. And Ashton Jeanty was asked where he thinks he'll be drafted, and he said he thinks he'll go between picks 6 and 12. And, of course, Jacksonville is picked 5, so maybe he needs to amend it to 5 to 12, but he expects to be drafted very early. All right, we'll go to our fantasy wish list here. You guys told me some destinations that you'd like to see for rookies. Dave gave us veterans. Heath, you already mentioned TreVeyon Henderson to the Broncos, but what about his backfield mate Quinshon Judkins?
I like Quinshon Judkins to the Bears in round 2. We had Matt Waldman on FFT Dynasty earlier this month. He has Judkins as his number 2 running back in the class, and the by far the best rusher besides Jeanty. I think he could fit very well in year 1 with DeAndre Swift playing that DeAndre Swift role that he played in Detroit. Judkins could have a double-digit touchdown season and eventually just be the clear number 1 running back for Ben Johnson.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I was listening to that episode yesterday.
Okay.
I didn't get to Judkins.
Might be the best part of that episode.
So I'm on Hampton and Henderson now.
So that's been the interesting thing about, and we just finished Tuesday. We did tight ends, so we've done all the positions now. So if you go FFT Dynasty, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can hear all the positions. But the interesting thing was the way I organized it was we went 1 through 6 by consensus. But a lot of times the guy who I was talking to did not agree with that order. So it took us a while to get to Judkins because he's not a top 3 back by consensus, but he is the number 2 back for Waldman.
I hate that.
I feel like there's a stats versus film fight when it comes to Judkins, because when you watch him play, strong physical runner, you notice on film that he doesn't have breakaway speed, but he can do pretty much everything else that you ask for.
Yep.
You just wish that he would use his agility a little bit more to make guys miss. And he's a little bit more physical. You look at the stats, and Adam, we've talked about this with Judkins. His stats are gross. Like, you see the lack of explosiveness in his numbers. The yards per carry, you pointed out how TreVeyon Henderson has a better yards per carry average than Judkins did last year. And Judkins was in a completely different offense the year before, and he still didn't have a good rushing average. He was playing a little hurt, I think, in his second year at Ole Miss, but still, there were moments where he looked great. But on film, it's different than what the stats say. And so it's a real interesting dichotomy, and it's going to be an interesting case to follow in his first couple of years in the league.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was saying I don't like this because I was ready to be kind of lower on Judkins, and then he's saying that Matt Waldman has him second. All right, how about another Buckeye? Emeka Ibuka to the Packers. Is that good? You know, we have not had in 2 seasons of Jordan Love, we have not had a 100-target receiver. Last year, we had 4 guys have between 70 and 76 targets for the Packers. So it's interesting. It's like, I love Jordan Love. I love this offense. But is it a good destination for a wide receiver, Heath?
It has not been. I am hopeful. Like, we've heard a little bit of talk about Green Bay maybe wanting a number 1 wide receiver. Josh Jacobs certainly thinking they need a number 1 wide receiver. I think if they used a first-round pick on Ibuka, he would be their best wide receiver, and certainly in terms of earning targets. And I think he would break that mold.
How many Packers receivers in the last 4 years have averaged 7 or more targets per game?
I'd say 0.
There was an Adams season in there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
1. And it's Devontae, 10.6 targets per game in 2021.
But
so literally the last 3 seasons, the next best target getter, at least on a per game basis, is Alan Lazard at 6.7.
I've talked about this. Like, I think when you're doing that and it's working, then you're much more likely to stick with that than when you do that and Jordan Love has a down year.
Look at the graphics. We've already got Ibuka on the Packers.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Well, also, they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the league last year, and that has been a departure. Third highest run rate in the NFL last year, fourth in running back carries. But usually they're a very balanced offense. In 4 of 6 seasons under Matt LaFleur, they're usually right around 15th in pass attempts and right around there in running back rush attempts. They're very balanced. So that's one of the reasons why you didn't have any 80 target guys last year. They didn't throw the ball very much. But I do think
also like who they have.
They have good players. Maybe Ibuka would be the best guy, maybe, but they have good players, right? Like they still need to get Reed going. They still need to get Dobbs and crap. So I don't think I want to see these guys end up on the Packers personally. I
don't want to see this either, but like to Heath's point, and this is what I was getting at. Like their guys are good, but they're probably not great. Like Jaden Reed might be great, Christian Watson might be great, but they just haven't shown it consistently yet. Like you get the guy, you use the guy, and he might be the guy, Ibuka. So that would be the hope. Like if again, it's kind of like Sean Payton going if the Broncos were to trade up. Like you're not trading up to give a guy 10 carries per game. You're trading up hopefully to give him a pretty significant workload. If they're making a move like this for a team that during Aaron Rodgers' entire tenure, they don't draft a wide receiver in the first round, like this is going to probably be a first round pick if they're going to do something like this.
Last Packers receiver drafted in the first round?
Javon Walker.
Correct.
Wow.
2002. All right, Luther Burden to the Dolphins. Are you hoping for a Tyreek Hill trade?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it even takes a trade at this point, but I want him to be somewhere with a creative play caller that doesn't think that he has to run all the traditional routes to be a superstar. Because I think Luther Burden has superstar abilities, and maybe he's better at some of the routes that we didn't get to see at Missouri. But it sounds like there's quite a bit of question about that in the NFL circles. And I think that you put him in a Mike McDaniel offense, especially with this recent turn towards lower ADOT, and Burden could be an absolute superstar.
Where is there a destination for Burden that would be like that, but with less target competition where he might be able to contribute more immediately?
Buffalo.
What about Houston?
There'd be less target competition in Buffalo. I'd be worried about Houston being that team this year because they just got Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
But after this year, sure.
I mean,
Jacksonville.
I know we're all pretty excited about Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, but it's San Francisco.
Yeah, they replace one Debo with another.
If he gets the second round, I think Giants would be a spot.
Maybe.
I mean, they've already got Wandale.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, for the half the games of the season that Wandale's out for, they could use Burden. What about the Jets? If you liked, once they get a better quarterback situation, because that's the kind of guy that I'd love to have teaming up with Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, it's a good call. But Schaefer says, what about the Patriots? Patriots definitely need I know they have Diggs, but they could use a number one receiver. What do you think about the Patriots?
Anybody to the Patriots.
Yeah, he could lead the Patriots in targets.
Yeah. All right, and then this one would be for 2026 and beyond, I guess. Harold Fannin to the Chiefs.
Yeah, and he is one of my favorite players in terms of where I rank him versus consensus. Led all of FBS, not just tight ends, in both receptions and receiving yards. Kind of an untraditional, I guess, mover. And some of the athletic testing isn't fantastic, but if you put him in round 3, let him play alongside Travis Kelce for a year, and then just be the number one tight end in Kansas City, I'd love it.
All right, let's go over to Jamie's fantasy wish list. He's got Ashton Jeanty to the Bears. He's got Omarion Hampton. So you have, here's my question. I'm going to read your top 4. I'm going to read your 4 running backs, right? Jeanty to the Bears. Omarion Hampton, for those of you who don't know, he's a bigger guy. He can catch passes. He can pass protect. There was a good debate about his pass protection skills on the Dynasty podcast. But he could be a 3-down back to the Broncos. TreVeyon Henderson, who's a smaller guy, not necessarily an every-down running back, but a great pass catcher, explosive player. Going to the Raiders. and Quinshon Judkins going to the Cowboys. Does it matter which team? Like, do you care which player goes to which team, or do you just want to see Bears, Broncos, Raiders, Cowboys investing early in a running back?
It does matter, but yes, these are the teams I think that have the biggest needs for those positions, for that position.
Okay. So how would you rank them if these came true? I know Jeanty would be one. Jeanty to the Bears, Hampton to the Broncos, Henderson to the Raiders, Judkins to the Cowboys. How would you rank them?
Like that.
Jeanty to the Bears, Hampton to the Broncos, Henderson to the Raiders, Judkins to the Cowboys. It's interesting. Henderson to the Raiders. What kind of workload do you think he would get if they took him? Like, I can't imagine they're going to take him with, what do they have? The 7th?
No, this was a round 2 pick.
Okay, so this would be a round 2 pick for them. Yeah. What's your outlook there for him? Because I think the Raiders is a great spot, just given the history of Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. But what do you think about this smaller running back compared to the other 3 guys in TreVeyon?
So I think the pro is that Chip Kelly's worked with him. The con is that Chip Kelly's worked with him, because clearly Chip Kelly did not give him the featured role like we would have liked to see. So it was capping his workload. So does that carry over to the NFL? But also it's clearly somebody that knows him and maybe knows, hopefully, that he's capable of more, and would give him a little bit of an extra, opportunity to, prove that on the next level, especially by investing an early 2nd round pick in him. So it really come down to who there's going to be the second guy with Henderson. So is it Zamir White? Is it Sincere McCormick? Is it somebody else that they bring in? Is this one of those situations that Emery was talking about, Emery Hunt, who we had on last week about, teams doubling up on backfields, and this is one that can get overhauled and would not surprise me by any stretch, just given the guys that they have there on their current roster. So if they bring in 2 rookies, is it, let's say somehow Caleb Johnson falls and we're looking at Henderson and Caleb Johnson, because they take him in the 4th round, or, whatever power back you want to throw there that might be of interest to the Raiders and having that 1-2 punch. So I still think Henderson's got an opportunity here to be, a 3-down guy, certainly somebody that can work on passing downs and hopefully show off his explosiveness. So yeah, he would be in the conversation to be 2. Knowing that Sean Payton may not use Hampton the way that we want him to use Hampton, but at the same time, there's, big opportunity for all of these guys if they end up as featured backs, which is what we expect.
All right. So again, it was Jeanty to the Bears, Hampton to the Broncos, Henderson to the Raiders, Quinshon Judkins to the Cowboys, Travis Hunter to the Patriots. That would be fun. Unlikely, but that would be fun. Matthew Golden to the Texans. What made you settle on that one, Golden to the Texans?
I think just knowing what Tank Dell was and, what they kind of are missing right now. I mean, Nico Collins obviously is an alpha and should be able to, dominate no matter who's playing with him, as we've seen over the last couple of seasons. Christian Kirk, Dave alluded to this, more of a short area target guy that will play in the slot, and especially what D'Amico Ryan said, that's kind of how they view him, seeing what he can do in that role. I think Golden, can be an outside threat that can make some big plays and not have to worry about necessarily being, a go-to guy, but still be productive. Again, very similar to what Tank Dell has been for the Texans and for CJ Stroud. So I think this is a team that is going to invest in a wide receiver. At what point in the draft will be the, telltale of how we view these guys. But would not shock me if they look at it and say, as Dave alluded to, Kirk's on a short-term deal. No Tank Dell, maybe for who knows how long. Hopefully he's back sooner than later, but that was a devastating injury. And so do they sort of restock the cupboard a little bit at that position and get a significant playmaker who, is, for the most part, been in their backyard?
Matthew Golden to the Texans, Travis Hunter to the Patriots. And then we got
literally in their backyard. He's from Houston.
Well, not literally in their backyard, because that would be like he'd be like in their back, they're in the,
he lived at the Astrodome
backyard, that would be bad. Colston Loveland to the Chargers, Mason Taylor to the Dolphins. I'm really excited to see. Oh, that would be fun. That'd be a nice little family storyline there.
I was debating it was either going to be Taylor or Gadsden just for the tie-in.
There you go. All right, Loveland to the Chargers, Mason Taylor to the Dolphins. Yeah, I'm so excited to see where these tight ends end up. Unfortunately, there's so much, the Colts taking Loveland or Warren. I don't think we want that necessarily, but
the 2 scenarios that are going to be frustrating, but you could see where they make sense, is if the Jets take Warren and the Colts take Loveland.
Yeah. Right. That's
Now, to be fair,
that would suck.
Justin Fields, I know it was Tyler Bagent helping as well, but Justin Fields did have Cole Kmet's best season in 2023. So, and I think we all agree that Warren's a better prospect coming into the league than Cole Kmet was. So, would not be surprised if Fields can still get some great production out of Warren, knowing that the receiving core is just miserable behind Garrett Wilson right now. And the Colts situation, again, does a guy that can be a little bit more successful in the middle of the field, especially a bigger target, because their tight end play has been sort of uninspiring from one guy. But if you look at what Richardson has done with the group of tight ends that he's played with, combine those numbers, it's not awful. So again, prospect goes there, then prospect like this goes there, whether it's one of those two guys. The hope would be that what Richardson has done this offseason, working with Josh Allen's quarterback coach or Daniel Jones, that player can still be somewhat productive, maybe just not to the high end potential that we see that they have if they went to a better team.
I'll be interested because Jacob yesterday on the tight end preview likes Loveland more than Warren. And I'll be interested if Warren goes to one of these places like the Colts or the Jets that we're not super excited about, and Loveland goes to the Chargers, if that becomes a more popular opinion.
If
Loveland's with Justin Herbert and Warren's in a spot that we don't really like.
Yeah.
Well, there's a fraction of people that think Loveland's the better prospect.
Yeah.
And that's the I know Adam's putting him in the Hall of Fame already, Warren, but
he is, yeah.
There's this is clearly a landing spot conversation. So if that happens, then yes, I think we will be looking at it and saying, okay. And it might not just be these two. It could be your guy from Bowling Green. It could be Mason Taylor. It could be
my guy from Miami, Elijah.
That at least for one season, they end up being the better player.
Right.
Okay.
I remember Brock Bowers having poor quarterback play all the way back in 2024.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know it's not the same thing because he was effectively their number one receiver, and I'd have a hard time believing that any tight end with the Jets or the Colts would be the top target getter with those teams.
Yeah, so they also had I do want to talk about the Raiders because they had the fourth most pass attempts in the NFL last year, and I just wonder what that offense is going to look like now with two coaches who are historically lean run heavy. But I went back, I looked at Pete Carroll every year in Seattle, right? Because sometimes they were the most run heavy team in the NFL, but they also had a 4 or a 5 year stretch. They had a top 3 defense. In fact, I think they were number 1 in defense 4 years in a row. Not going to be the case with the Raiders. So these coaches want to run the ball, Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll. But when the Seahawks regressed defensively, when they became either kind of just an average or below average defense, they actually threw the ball a decent amount, not top 4, but top half of the league, basically. So I do think it's kind of interesting if the Raiders bring in Ted McMillan, let's say, and they have a huge decrease in pass attempts. I think worst case scenario for Bowers, maybe no one cares. Maybe he's so good no one cares, would be McMillan in round 1 and a running back in early round 2. And they are more committed to the run, and they have a more target competition. And I wonder
pass catching running back in round 2.
No, I actually am thinking a good rusher because they couldn't run the ball last year, right? They had terrible running backs. So if they have a guy that could actually put them
Amir Abdullah was awesome.
Helped some people in the fantasy playoffs. But
I think to your point, though, Adam, yes, it could impact Bowers. I think really the only thing where that comes into play is if you're on the fence between Bowers and McBride.
100%. Yeah. But I'll give you one more scenario where maybe there's another guy that could, Kittle could, right? Like Kittle's so good, but I was going to draft him ahead. What if Mark Andrews gets traded? I'd be excited to talk about that. And I think we're going to talk about that when we look at Dave's veterans who could be on the move. Mark Andrews, it's like a juicy destination for him. We're going to take one more break. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Before we do that, though, just one more reminder, tinyurl.com/FFT2025 draft. tinyurl.com/FFT2025 draft. Submit your picks there. We'll be right back.
The most original musical ever is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I'm just giving the people what they want.
Better Man absolutely sizzles from start to finish.
Wow!
Better Man, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
So Dave took the veteran approach. Let's see which veterans could be on the move and how that would affect fantasy. And if Mark Andrews gets traded to a good spot, it would be great, I think, for the tight end position because it would be a boost for Andrews and it would be a boost for Isaiah Likely. This would be great. Dave, where do you want to see him go?
Let's get him reunited with Greg Roman in LA with the Chargers. And then the Chargers don't have to go and spend a first-round pick on a tight end. I mean, they could, but why would they if they're going to acquire Mark Andrews? Or maybe they miss out on both of them, and that's their plan C, is to go and just trade away a, round 3, round 4, probably round 4. Heath, would you take a 4th rounder for Mark Andrews just to get him off your team?
No.
Right.
I don't know why you'd want to get him off your team. He's very, very good.
I understand. But
I'd take a 3rd
you're
round.
able to unload a contract and you're not going to extend him and you can get a draft pick for him. Maybe.
If I was the Ravens, I would view myself as a contender this year.
Right. That's the thing. It's like you're still very much a strong Super Bowl contender. Do you want to strip down anything that's worked for you?
That's fair. But let's say they don't feel that way. And they're going to harbor ill feelings over how their season ended.
Yeah, I mean,
and Mark Andrews moves on. I'm not saying, listen, we're dreaming here, right, Adam? So putting Andrews on the Chargers gives him fantasy life, and it makes Isaiah Likely a good fantasy tight end as well. Makes the position stronger, deeper, cooler.
It just kills the Tyler Conklin narrative. Sucks.
that would be terrible. I think this is one of the few spots where Andrews could get traded where I would be as excited or more excited about him.
I would be more.
He had 69 targets in 17 games last year. He caught 90% of his end zone targets, 9 out of 10. He's never had a year where he's
caught one he didn't get.
What?
The one in the playoffs, the 2-point conversion.
Oh yeah, I guess he said his gloves were very wet when he dropped that ball. But I just think that there's no chance. He scored 11 touchdowns. He led the position in touchdowns, and he was tight end 8 per game in PPR, 6 per game in non, 7 per game in half. I don't want him on the Ravens anymore. Like, I don't know if he would get 69 targets again. That's very low.
Right.
But I don't know that he would get more than that. They clearly like Flowers, and they like Bateman, and they like Lively, and they don't throw that much. So I want him off the
Ravens. They
Ravens.
added Hopkins, who could be an end zone threat.
Yeah, and maybe it's an age thing, or maybe it's just the way they want to go. I would just say, like, it was 1 year, and you did have it was the car crash in training camp, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the year before he was on pace for 104 targets. The year before that, he had 113 in 15 games. I'm not sure I'm ready to say after one season of bad target volume, that's just what it is in Baltimore.
What do you have him projected for?
85? 90?
Like, that seems fair to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. 69 does seem low. And remember, there were 2 games back-to-back, weeks 3 and 4, where he had no catches on 1 target. And then after that, let's see if I have his pace after that. Yeah, last 13 games, he was on pace for 78 targets, 14 touchdown pace in those 13 games. So, well, per 17 games, but he had 11 touchdowns in those last 13 games after being completely uninvolved. And we were ever, should we drop him? Should we drop him? And no, I hope you didn't drop him. But I
pay them $11 million if they trade him,
right,
without any, taking some of the money that they've guaranteed him.
I just think the other angle is not just about Andrews; it's also about Lively. I think we want to see him get an opportunity to be fantasy relevant.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Dave, you've got the Steelers making a move, and who do you have going to the Steelers?
It's not sexy, but Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins, we know that they're potentially available. And Aaron Rodgers seems like he's dealing with some stuff off the field that's slowing him down to make a decision with the Steelers. So maybe Pittsburgh gives up next to nothing to acquire either of those quarterbacks. And they go into the season with one of them under center. And the only reason why there's even mild appeal is because of who they're throwing to. They've got a nice combo there with Metcalf and Pickens. You can throw in Freiermuth. Jalen Warren will catch some passes out of the backfield. It's not a bad receiving core. So any quarterback that goes there, certainly in 2 QB leagues, that makes them mildly appealing as a number 2 QB. I don't think either of them would get drafted into 1 QB. I don't think Rodgers would get drafted in a 1 QB. But it gives them a little bit of life, and it certainly provides at least a veteran presence at quarterback for their 2 studly receivers.
You were saying Lively, weren't you?
Yeah,
Likely.
100%.
Who said Lively?
I said
Adam,
it,
you're
didn't
saying
I?
Lively.
Yeah.
What the hell? What is with me? Lively?
I thought the first time, like, did I hear it right? And then
I said it multiple times.
yeah, you did.
Wow, that's very strange.
It's okay.
Let's talk about Kirk Cousins. And he said something very interesting about Kirk Cousins. He said he hurt his shoulder and his elbow in week 10, and it affected him going forward. And he had just thrown 7 touchdowns in his previous 2 games at Tampa Bay and Dallas. His first 9 games, he completed 69% of his passes, 7.9 yards per attempt. Then hurt his elbow and his shoulder. Last 5 games, he completed 63% of his passes, 7.55 yards per attempt. He was on pace for 3 touchdowns and 31 interceptions, and he lost his job. So I did want to bring that up. It's not like Cousins was so good. He was very limited. His mobility was non-existent, but he was a lot better before what he says was an injury that he sustained. So maybe he's not completely cooked. All right, Dave, running backs. You got Ken Walker to the Raiders. You got Travis Etienne to the Patriots. You got Chris Olave to the he's not a running back.
That's not a running back.
Ken Walker. I'm Ron Burgundy. Ken Walker to the Raiders. Travis Etienne to the Patriots. You think something like this could happen?
Well, these are 2 running backs that are in their final year of their contract, and we have a new coaching regime in Seattle. I think Zach Charbonnet is a great fit for what Clint Kubiak wants to do as far as having a guy that's versatile and catch the ball in the backfield. And there were times last year where it was so obvious, at least to me, that Zach Charbonnet was the better running back for Seattle. They should have gone with him down the stretch instead of Ken Walker. And Walker was beat up. That could have been part of it. But I think that there's a path here for if Seattle wanted to kind of make a change at running back, you get rid of Ken Walker, you keep Zach Charbonnet, you make him the lead guy, you draft another running back. And maybe in that case, Pete Carroll's got a guy that he's trusted, that he can use as a stopgap running back and maybe even potentially pay him, someone who's familiar with his quarterback. Then you don't have to go and spend that 2nd round pick on a running back. Maybe that's an option for them if they don't get Ashton Jeanty. And we would love any running back that goes to Las Vegas. Walker would be one of those guys. So I think that would actually be great for Walker if he's in a situation where he's not sharing with Zach Charbonnet. Maybe the Raiders don't spend anything more than a round 4 pick on a running back to go behind Ken Walker. Etienne to the Patriots, that's just a guy who could work on passing downs and kind of be relegated to a smaller role and be a plan B for the Patriots if Ramondre Stevenson can't fix his fumbling issue.
I think it's going to be fascinating to see, like, if Jeanty goes to the Jaguars or if there's another one of these veterans that get significant competition. Is there any trade market for any of these guys? So like Etienne's the one been, thinking about this just, with all the potential of Jeanty going there. Like, what would the Jaguars take to give up Etienne as sort of like their 1B or, backup, knowing that Tank Bigsby could certainly fill that role? So 7th round pick, 6th round pick, like would they consider that? Because I can't imagine the team's going to offer much more, knowing that he is in a final year of his deal, is certainly underperformed.
Right.
And how loaded this class is, that you could still get somebody on day 3 that may have more upside and you have more control with their contract than trading for Etienne, who hopefully will still have an opportunity someplace else. But and then you spin that forward a little bit to, like, J.K. Dobbins still out there, Nick Chubb still out there. Like, where do they end up after this draft, knowing that there's going to be so many players from this draft class populating around the league?
Oh man, I would absolutely love Ken Walker to the Raiders. So let's just say Ken Walker to the Raiders, and they decide to just cancel the NFL draft this year. No other running backs are going to these teams. Sorry, the rookies are just gonna have to wait till next year. Would you draft? Would you rather have Walker on the Raiders or Charbonnet on Seattle?
Walker. But
I think Walker.
I think it's Walker, but I think it would be very close.
I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I imagine Charbonnet is averaging at least 15 points per game in games without Ken Walker. He's been so good.
I might have it.
All right, Chris Olave to the Bills. Jakobi Meyers to the Cowboys. A couple of wide receiver trades. How about Jakobi? How about Olave to the Cowboys? No, I like that. Olave to the Bills. Meyers to the Cowboys. All right, Dave. That's fun. These Cowboys say they're going to do something. They say they're going to.
I would hate the Meyers move.
How come?
Because right now he's the number 1 receiver for the Raiders, and he'd be going to the number 2 guy for the Cowboys.
I still think there'd be a lot of targets.
Is he really the number 1 on the Raiders, though?
He's the number 1 receiver, yes.
Right, but if he's still number 2 behind Bowers, is it that different than being number 2 behind Lamb? It is, right?
Yeah.
Much.
I'd rather him stay in his current role, assuming nobody. Let's go back to your cancel the NFL draft. Like if we're keeping him there or moving him to the Cowboys, I'd rather him stay with the Raiders.
And I know the Raiders threw a lot of passes. I believe it was the 4th most in the NFL last year. But as the number 2 in Las Vegas, he was on pace for 158 targets over his last 10 games.
That's a lot.
That's very much a lot.
Yeah.
So Meyers is in the last year of his deal. Olave's in his 4th year. Do the Saints pick up the 5th year option on Olave? I would, but what if they don't? If they don't, then that means that they're basically telegraphing that it's a make or break year for him if he stays in New Orleans. Or can they get something good in trade for him? And then Buffalo goes and they get the field stretcher that they've been looking for and a potential number 1 receiver in Olave, provided that he can stay healthy.
Yeah,
Meyers, it's definitely a downgrade for Meyers because I still think CeeDee Lamb's going to get his. But we could see some serious target funnelage where Lamb and Meyers get everything. Whoever that number 2 receiver is in Dallas is going to get a lot. And the tight ends maybe get phased out, and the Jalen Tolberts and Kevontae Turpins of their world get phased down a little bit. I think it would be okay for Meyers, probably like no better than a low-end number 3 receiver, whereas right now, before the draft, Meyers is like a high-end number 3 receiver in Las Vegas.
Now, if you're spinning this forward and the Raiders are drafting, let's say McMillan, or they're getting 1 or 2 receivers, then absolutely get Meyers out of Las Vegas and let him be the number 2 guy in Dallas.
Yeah. So as of right now, how many of the rookie wide receivers, if they were drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, do you think would be better than, say, Jakobi Meyers if he were the number 2 receiver on the Dallas Cowboys
Next year?
Yeah.
None.
I mean, if they got McMillan, first of all, I think that would be weird if they got McMillan.
I can't believe it's
close.
I'm surprised. Like, obviously, like Hunt, you wouldn't take Hunter.
Oh, Hunter. Yeah, sorry.
That's not realistic, though.
No, it's not. But I'm just curious. I'm just putting this class in perspective.
You're saying the Cowboys take McMillan or the Cowboys trade for Meyers? Who's better?
Yes.
Right.
I would take Meyers for this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, wow. Dave, triple?
No, I think I'd probably take McMillan.
Okay.
And as much as I love Golden, I don't know if I could take Golden. What about Ibuka?
I would take at least 5 guys. I think Jakobi Meyers.
Over Meyers? Okay.
I think he's such a non-upside guy.
I don't disagree with that, but I think just for 1 year, adjusting to the league, being the second guy, he play in the slot, like I have no problem with him over those guys.
I don't think anybody has huge upside if they're playing next to CeeDee Lamb as a rookie.
I mean, I kind of not huge upside, but they really don't have anyone else, right? You could see a guy go in there and get 110 targets, maybe something like that.
If they throw as much as they have in the last couple of years, yes. But that's also contingent on them not being able to run the ball.
Yeah, Meyers just doesn't really he doesn't do anything after the catch. He's not a downfield threat. Whereas Luther Burden is both of those things, for example. And I would say we'd have a much lower floor, but could actually have a much bigger impact than a guy like Meyers. But I only asked that because I guess I wanted to know if we kind of know who Jakobi Meyers is. I just want to know how you guys feel about this receiver class. Who has the potential to be more than that as a rookie? It doesn't seem like you guys feel like they're that.
Well, I mean, you're putting it in a very small scenario here of what the upside play is, and so again, like these guys going to be the number 2 receiver versus a guy who's sort of been that, and I think could adjust to. Certainly, he's adjusted to a lot of different play callers, would adjust to playing with a veteran quarterback, would adjust to going to a new system, would adjust to being a complimentary, option. Like, I don't know how much those guys will fit into that.
I don't see a lot of opportunities for receivers to come in and be the number one guy. Do you? Hunter aside?
I guess it depends, like, how you view Jeudy. Let's just say Hunter goes to the Browns, right? And does he automatically become better than what Judy's been? The Raiders. I mean, again, we're talking about these guys, comparing them in Dallas. Like, the Raiders can certainly draft one of these guys as well, and they can be better than Meyers. New England, especially knowing that Stephon Diggs is coming off, an ACL tear and is 31, so they can be better there. But yeah, it's not exactly like an open market for, finding a number one receiver. But again, going back to like Heath's point with, Ibuka going to the Packers, like, when you have a team that has no real number one guy, so any of these guys could walk in and I shouldn't say any of these guys. I think it's really more like McMillan, maybe Golden, maybe Ibuka, like, do those guys automatically become the alpha of their receiving court? Buffalo, same
And
situation.
for what it's worth, like, we saw Jakobi Meyers 2 years ago as the number 2 behind Devontae Adams, who had 175 targets that year. And Meyers averaged 13 fantasy points per game playing with Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Good call.
So I think playing with Dak Prescott, he could get close to 14.
Yeah. Okay, and Dave, you've got
Carolina, I guess, can be a number one receiver there.
Who's that?
Carolina.
Yep.
Kyle Pitts to the Seahawks. We talked about Mark Andrews to the Chargers. Dallas Goedert to the Saints.
Familiarity in Kellen Moore's offense and an opportunity to play as often as he did in Philadelphia on a team that doesn't have as many targets, or at least prominent targets. Not exciting.
What's worse for Dallas Goedert? Because I've kind of thought Dallas Goedert to the Colts obviously makes sense because the connection to the coaching staff. Is the Colts worse than the Saints for a tight end? Or are the Colts worse than the Saints?
I would say so. I think you go to the Saints, you could potentially be the number 2 pass catcher there for at least a better thrower.
Who's the quarterback?
Assuming it's Carr.
Oh, if it's Carr, I'd much rather him be on the Saints, but I don't know if it's going to be Carr.
What if it's a rookie?
Yeah.
Sanders, Dart.
I'd rather go to the Colts.
You'd rather go to the Colts?
I wouldn't.
I'm not sure Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are that much bigger target competition than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And the Saints have Alvin Kamara.
I think he'd be asked to block more in Indy.
Why are we putting him on these teams? Like, gosh,
Where do you want to send him?
What did Dallas Goedert do to you? Just send everyone to the Chargers.
Right, I think that's we all want to see him go to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Can't. Mark Andrews is there.
I actually think the Giants, they need to upgrade their receiving core in some capacity. Yeah. And it's either going to be receiver or tight end. But I could see them being in the market for they got a washed up quarterback. They might as well get a washed up tight end to go along with them.
I mean, what did we do to Dallas Goedert?
I'd rather him go to the Giants than the Saints or the Colts.
Well, I mean, Dave brought up Pitts to Seattle. I mean, Seattle's not exactly got a slam dunk starter with Noah Fant. And Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's a great opportunity. Absolutely. All right, guys. You ready for this week? Woo!
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I am excited. And by the way, Heath, I know you took a shot at the Knicks there, but I hope we all have some Florida Panthers fever because we beat the crap out of our arch rival last night. It was awesome.
Great. That's my favorite hockey team.
You know what, Jamie? I'm in. I was in-ish last year. I'm more in. I think I can name like 13 players. That's kind of good. It's kind of a lot. Like, I feel like I'm a fan now.
Did you have an opportunity to go to a game and you said no?
No, I went.
You went to a...
Didn't you have the opportunity to go to a Stanley Cup game and you said no?
No, I don't think so.
And I didn't mean to take a shot at the Knicks. It's every night we got 3 great games with superstars from the past eras and superstars like Cade Cunningham from the current era.
Cade Cunningham is pretty amazing, but the playoffs have been kind of crap so far.
What are you talking about?
How many close games have there been? The Knicks and Pistons has been okay.
I forgot about that rule.
No, I mean, what's been good about the playoffs?
The Clippers,
it's been 5 months.
That's been great series there. The first round, I have no low expectations for the first round anyway.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, it's the Golden State game tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
Celtics Magic without Tatum.
He's definitely out.
Well,
Yeah, he's doubtful.
maybe not. He should be.
I believe they are 0-2 without him against
Yep.
the Magic.
Did you see the series odds for that series? So
Minus 10,000.
it was minus 5,000, and
Okay.
just for reference, the Cavs and the Thunder were like 1,600.
Yeah.
And the Celtics were minus 5,000. Was ridiculous. But yeah. Okay.
Can't wait to read the comments on how FF today turned into FBT.
That's okay. We're allowed at the very end of the show. We're allowed to do, and honestly, we are allowed to do anything we want at the very end of the show. Anything we want. You give you 50 minutes of fantasy football content. I'm going to tell you that I was watching Righteous Gemstones till like 1:30 in the morning last night, cracking up. I love that show. Everybody get on board. We'll talk to you tomorrow night, super late, after round one is in the books. Hope you all enjoy it, and we will have the breakdown for you. See you then.